What really gags me is that they just showed their hand in the background right there while using a brown skin tone emoji. Like, is that emoji supposed to represent your hands? Because it's actually a closer match to your cat. Picture this, it's 4:20 and I'm a scumbag stoner celebrating this sacred holiday. I end up passing out for 24 hours. When I finally come to consciousness the next day, I open my phone to a wall of voice memos from my friend ranting about the latest person exposed on book Twitter. I'm like, bro, I'm barely sober right now. Who are all these people? The basic rundown that I have learned is that there is a white author who has been pretending to be a person of color and created multiple fake accounts and fake friendships with other authors and reviewers for over 5 years. And no, it's not Kate Corinne this time. The different names of this person include Taylor Barton, Taylor Brooke, Brooklyn Ray, Jupiter Wyse, Stacey Anthony, Hunter Taylor, Hunter Lewellyn, Cordelia Lynne, Bailey Greene, Saint Harlowe, and Freydis Moon. You know that scene in the Into the Spider-Verse movie where Spider-Man just walks into a room full of other Spider-Man? That's the vibe that this list gives off. I never crossed paths with this person because I'm not really active on Twitter besides just logging in for a few minutes and then bouncing off. So if you are also new to this, you and I will be on this journey together. So the latest iteration of this constantly evolving person is Freydis Moon. They present themselves as a trans non-binary Latinx person. And before you come for me for saying Latinx, I'm asking you to put your hands away from the keyboard because people always argue in my comments that Latinx is not a real term. I'm gonna save you time and energy by reminding you that every time I say the term Latinx, that's because the person that I'm talking about referred to themselves as Latinx. I'm just going by what their label is. If you have a problem with that, go take it up with them before derailing my video in the comments because this is not the takeaway here. Anyway, Freydis Moon's books include The Gideon Testaments, Exodus 23, and With a Vengeance. I believe they're an indie author, but their previous personas have been traditionally published. So one would question that maybe they're indie now, not due to choice, but probably because they got blacklisted a couple years ago. What opened the floodgates for this particular persona to be exposed among the history that they had for previous exposure was when this writer and someone who used to be a friend of theirs named L. Porter posted a thread on Twitter while I was high and conked out and I missed the entire thing, but I am now catching up and I will link to the thread in my description. But they basically put together evidence that links Freydis Moon to Taylor Barton, Taylor Brooke, and Jupiter Wyse. Now you may be wondering, who the hell are all these people? This is also where I'm going to link an article back in 2021 that details how Taylor Barton was accused of racism and bullying back in 2020. They then rebranded themselves as a Latinx author named Jupiter Wyse. Again, they call themselves Latinx, so don't come for me. Don't annoy the messenger, okay? This is not my discourse to be a part of. What I will share is the highlights from this article just to bring you up to speed, but be warned that as we dive further into this rabbit hole, your panties are gonna be in a twist for how long this has been going on. Fortunately, my panties are never in a twist thanks to today's sponsor, Parade. The only thing smoother than my ad transitions are my underwear and bra. I've been wearing their stuff for almost half a year now, and I like their stuff so much more than the other brands that I've worn before. Especially when it comes to bras, I typically never wear bras because I hate how the wires dig into my skin. But a lot of the stuff that Parade has been super comfortable. So one of the new bras that I got recently is this Dream Balconette bra, just because I really like the color and design. These straps are really great because you can adjust them. They don't dig into your skin. They're unlined, so it's a lot more comfortable. And the fabric is stretchy, so I don't feel like I'm being strangled when I wear a bra now. I also got this vintage high-rise brief. They have a lot of really cute designs. There's enough coverage for my cheeks, so I don't feel like my ass is just hanging out. So this has just been great for everyday use, and it looks really cute too. You should definitely check out Parade at yourparade.com/Cindy40. If you use my code Cindy40, you can get 40% off site-wide, and you should hurry because I already saw that a lot of these designs are running out. And now let's get back to the video. All right, so let me read out loud to you highlights from the article. First, we gotta go all the way back with the first alias that we know of for this person named Taylor B. Barton. They are the trans author of The Ninth Life and other books with queer and fantasy themes. They also wrote and published several sci-fi books using their middle name Taylor Brooke, but under the name Brooklyn Ray, they also publish queer paranormal romance and erotica. So there's 3 different names here: Taylor B. Barton, Taylor Brooke, and Brooklyn Ray. These are all the same person, just writing under different pen names. Now this is pretty normal when it comes to authors just writing under different names, because a lot of times if an author is interested in writing different genres, then they might have a specific pen name for that specific genre. So there's nothing wrong with Taylor having a bunch of pen names. What became more concerning is in June of 2020, Taylor had a bunch of accusations against them where multiple people on Twitter came forward to share their personal experiences of being bullied or mistreated by them. Several people said that Taylor had said or did things that made them feel persecuted because of their race or gender identity. The article doesn't show any specific allegations when this came out. However, I am inclined to believe this just because of the multiple people that talked about this and everything else that you'll see in the timeline moving forward. And as well, during the time when they faced a bunch of accusations, they came forward with an apology. And most of the time, you don't really apologize for being racist unless you were actually racist. So this is their apology that they posted. I've made mistakes. I'm listening. I'm learning, growing, and taking steps to interrogate my own internalized racism. This part here is kind of weird because internalized racism implies that you are a person of color that's racist against your own race, and that's something that you internalize. But at the time that they posted this apology, they were a random white person. So I think this was just like a misuse of words here, but maybe they were like, you know what, I should run along with this idea. Anyway, we'll talk about that in a little bit. Anger has always been my shield, but vulnerability is the only way I will ever learn to grow. The conversations surrounding me, my actions, the hurt I've caused, and my missteps is important and necessary. Transparency in this industry about pain, abuse, and racism is desperately needed, and I'm thankful for the chance to become a better ally and author. I'm actively reaching out to those I've hurt with apologies, but I know that isn't enough. The only way I can make this right is by stepping back, listening to critique from my community, and doing the work to become a better person. Apologies are hollow, but I intend to make good on this. As a start, I've made a one-time $500 donation to the Trevor Project. To follow, all future royalties I earn off sales of The Ninth Life will be donated to the Trevor Project as well. To those I've hurt, I'm so sorry. I hope I can make this right somehow. As many people of their demographic before their time, they issue an apology as well as take a break from social media, or so we think. The weird thing to me was that they donated to the Trevor Project, which is an LGBT plus charity, when their accusations were about racism, especially towards Black people. Meanwhile, the Trevor Project isn't Black owned. So again, kind of like a random donation to make, but because of everything that went down, their agent dropped them and their publishers dropped them. This is, again, more damning evidence that the accusations against them were correct, considering that professional publishers had dropped them. And if you know anything about the publishing industry, usually they're very, lax about this kind of stuff. So after receiving negative reactions to their apology post and getting dropped by publishers and their agent, they went to their alternate Twitter account under the name Brooklyn Ray. And this is where they basically had a meltdown and complained about what was going on. They called out other trans authors that they claimed to have engaged and encouraged their bullying behaviors, including Aiden Thomas, who will be referenced later on. And it turns out that they didn't actually mean their apology, because they said, I apologized, 1, because my team asked me to, and 2, because I wanted to move on and make amends since there was obviously hurt feelings. But hurt feelings is not abuse. Discomfort is not abuse. Stop watering the word down. They continue to lash out against other people who are in the replies being like, why are you doing this? No one is supporting you. And they say, that's fine. I don't give a fuck about support. I give a fuck about every single person who claimed I was a toxic abuser being held accountable for their own toxic abuse. They also tried to appeal to sympathy by implying that the loss of their career would affect their health and well-being. They said, I'm just trying to pay my bills. I'm just trying to save the substantial income I just lost so I can stay in my apartment, feed my pets, pay for my medication, and survive. I'm not asking for anyone to support me, but goddamn, please just leave me alone. If you don't like me, if you don't support me, don't follow my social media and don't buy my book. Block me, mute me, don't seek me out. I have literally nothing left, and I only came back to this space because I don't know what else to do besides beg. I resisted saying anything else because I know how this goes. I know how Twitter works. I didn't want to fan the flames. I wanted to leave this space, work on my books, and move the hell on. There's nothing I can say to change anything, but please, I'm gone. Let me be gone. But the thing is, they were not gone, because after deleting those 3 accounts and dropping off of social media, later down the road, here comes Jupiter Wyse, who is this newcomer writer who also got a literary agent for a new book. But every now and then, people on book Twitter do have brain cells after all, because they were able to put the pieces together and figure out that Jupiter was the same person as Taylor. The way that they did this was by pulling up photos and analyzing how the backgrounds were similar to Taylor, as well as pulling up astrological charts. And when astrology is getting brought up in this, shit is about to get serious. This is how far deep we are in. So here's some of the evidence in question. An anonymous account had posted under the pen name Brooklyn Ray, Taylor shared photos of their Christmas tree on Instagram. The same ornaments appear on a tree posted from Jupiter Wyse's Instagram account. A very similar black cat appears on gray carpeting on both Brooklyn Ray and Jupiter Wyse's Instagram accounts. Talk about the cat out of the bag, literally. Taylor Barton and Jupiter Wyse share the same zodiac chart. The first image is a screen grab of Taylor's co-star account using their former handle, Tay Salian. This is why you cannot lie to queer people, because they will pull up your star sign and clock you right away. Maybe you can argue that everybody deserves a second chance, but you can't really argue that everybody deserves a second chance under a completely different racial identity. Because Jupiter Wyse was an author who claimed to be Latinx. They've written several tweets about this, such as a diaspora, monolingual Latinx person, this is really important to remember. I use Spanish in my books a lot, but I use it in ways I'm used to. Little phrases, familial words, stolen pieces of a culture and language I'm still learning and finding. We're out here fighting an industry where our existence debated at every single turn and getting mad about us injecting our language and identity into our own creative endeavors? Yeah, bet the view is nice from your high horse. You ever meet an ally who is so passionate about their allyship that they become the race that they defend themselves? Because clearly they were really just going through all of the same talking points that people of color have, but co-opting it for their own purpose, whether it was for social media clout or whatever. But they also used this as an opportunity to participate in a Twitter pitch event that was exclusively for Latinx authors who are seeking agents. If you aren't part of writing Twitter, basically pitch events are for authors to pitch their manuscripts in the hopes that agents will be able to see it by going through the hashtag and seeing the different pitches and blurbs about the manuscripts. This is essentially a way for authors to be discovered on social media. So Jupiter was one of those people that says, also want to note that I participated in hashtag Latinx pitch the day before Tara offered me rep. I got on the phone with some amazing agents and the reception to my weird gothic dark academia blew my mind. I'm so thankful for all the resources I've stumbled into via book Twitter. In their Twitter bio, they also identified as QTPOC, which typically means queer trans person of color. And that was definitely not the labels that they called themselves when they were Taylor. They also devoted an entire thread to talking about diversity in paranormal books and how this genre is so often whitewashed. And the whole irony of that is so baffling. I am begging agents and editors to stop saying they want diversity in one breath and then bad-mouthing vampires / werewolves / paranormal in the next, especially if you're gonna say, unless it's from another place, diaspora authors exist. Let us write campy paranormal, please. Black vampires in Los Angeles don't have to be tied to African mythos. Just let them be cool city vamps. Latinx werewolves don't have to be tied to South American legend. Just let us write normal ass werewolves. Your white clients got the chance. Now make room for us. If I had $1 for every time an agent or editor said, I don't want vampires or werewolves or fairies unless they're ethnic, I wouldn't need a day job. Anyway, be mindful. Paranormal is not overdone. It's just been whitewashed to death. And that's not our ding dang fault. So beyond co-opting social justice language to role play as a person of color, they also really narrowed down on this new identity by using dark-skinned emojis, choosing a dark-skinned avatar, and posting content that implied that they were culturally Latinx, like a shot of this abuelita hot chocolate and a photo of their face that is covered by a sugar skull bandana. They wrote this one tweet where they said, writing a script where a vendor hollers chili chili mango, and boy do I miss the squat happy man with the greatest mustache of all time who sold fruit outside Santee Alley. Always gave me extra salsa, always had the freshest fruit on the block. They also were a co-writer for a book about immigration and Latinx culture with another writer who is of genuine Latinx identity. And this person tweeted, some of you might recollect that I have been working for the past months on the development of a graphic novel with Jupiter Wyse, who has been outed as a white person pretending to be Latinx, with me, an actual Latinx person. So not only have they faced several accusations of being racist, they went on to pretend that they were a Latinx person, therefore taking opportunities away from actual Latinx people, from these pitch events, from being nominated for awards for books by Latinx authors, even as going so far as to lie to their agent, who tweets, I recently found out my client Jupiter Wyse lied to me about their identity. Long story short, when I offered rep and they didn't want to speak by video because of dysmorphia, I wanted to respect that. I'm a huge advocate for mental health and personal security. I would never violate my clients by forcing them to do something they weren't comfortable with. Unfortunately, that also gave Jupiter / Taylor the perfect opportunity to lie to me, not only about who they are, but about their publishing history. Never once did the names Taylor Barton or Brooklyn Ray come up when I signed them. I'm heartbroken and shocked by this. Thank you to all the people who reached out to me and brought this to my attention. I have terminated my partnership with them. So that's basically what happened a couple years ago. Now let's go back to present day in 2024, the year of more bullshit. We go back to Elle Porter, the writer who was also a friend of Freydis Moon, who put together a Google Doc with evidence that links Freydis Moon to Taylor Barton and Jupiter Wyse. And you know shit is serious when there is a Google Doc. Again, all of this is linked in my description below, but I will go ahead and summarize it for you. So the first time that Elle Porter had ever heard of the names Taylor Barton and Jupiter Wyse was back in 2021 when there was an account on Twitter that accused Freydis of being Taylor / Jupiter. This account says, we believe Taylor Barton is masquerading in brownface again as Hunter Taylor / Stacey Anthony on Instagram and Freydis Moon on Twitter. In their thread, they included evidence like a photo that was posted on Stacey's Instagram, which was also located in the same geographic area as Taylor Barton. And like with Jupiter Wyse, these accounts appeared seemingly overnight and only in the wake of Taylor Barton being chased off of Twitter under their own name. But the content and the style of the Stacey Anthony Instagram account matches previous accounts run by Taylor Barton. Some other photo evidence includes Stacey Anthony showing a picture that has a circular wooden table and light carpet underneath. This matches the same wooden table and light carpet that Brooklyn Ray has posted before. There's also a black cat on a gray carpet appearing both on Jupiter and Taylor's and Brookline's old Instagram accounts with Stacey's Instagram account. Freydis Moon also claims to be a Pisces, but they celebrated their 30th birthday in August, whereas Taylor Barton was born in August of 1991. But a lot of these things could just be coincidence, and that's why a lot of people had come to the defense of Freydis, including Elle Porter at the time. And it makes sense because Freydis had built these years of friendships with other writers and readers in the community. They established themselves to be a trustworthy person. And so when this accusation came out, they tweeted, "This is not me. My legal name is Daniella." That can be confirmed by at least one critique partner / beta reader. I don't know what to say. I'm heartbroken to have been targeted like this, but I don't know Taylor Barton or Stacey Anthony. Freydis would continue to insist that they had nothing to do with these aliases, as shown in these screenshots from private Discord conversations where they said, "Some of the people in my network like you I've been talking to for years. How could I possibly construct such a devious plot to create some weird empire or cult while catfishing as a whole white person? I wish I knew a single person who has read Taylor Barton Mars Lies or whatever so they could tell me our writing is different at this point, because I don't understand why this is still ongoing in the YA community. I don't even write YA. I have no YA critique partners." And so it seemed like these accusations were swept under the rug because there wasn't that much evidence, and like Freydis said, who could possibly put in that much effort? That would be cuckoo bananas. But then this year in March of 2024, Freydis posts in a private author server with about 30 other people mentioning that they were starting a new book. They proceed to post 2 snippets from the book that they're working on. Elle Porter, upon reading this, was immediately struck by the familiarity that they encountered because in 2022, Elle Porter had actually been sent an incomplete draft of a story that was written by Jupiter Wyse called Never Say Die. This was sent to them by someone who used to be close to Jupiter. So they went back and looked at the manuscript from Jupiter, and then they compared it to this new manuscript from Freydis Moon, and they started to see the similarities. So here's a side-by-side comparison where on the left side, you can see Freydis Moon's manuscript, which they claim to be something new that they're working on, versus on the right side, Jupiter Moon's manuscript. The first few sentences are different, but if you look in the last few sentences of the first paragraph, you can see the similar lines here. Fitness junkies sneered at the bumpy trail and complained to their friends over post-workout juice brunches about forestry maintenance and where do my taxes even go, and it's not that good of a burn anyway. No one worth a damn swatted their way through the trail's spindly branches unless they were looking for a place to get off, get well, or get worse. But he certainly hadn't lugged a backpack full of store-bought pig's blood and freshly plucked doe feathers to the cliff for nothing. It's not even a matter of similar styles of writing. It is word for word the same specific phrases that are being used. The person who sent the original manuscript from Jupiter also sent another manuscript from Jupiter called Astaroth, and this can be proven when you look at Jupiter's old Twitter bio where they said that their current work in progress was a book called Astaroth. So now that Elle Porter has this other manuscript called Astaroth, they went ahead and checked every document that Freydis had ever sent them, including an unpublished story that was sent back in 2023. And so now here's another side-by-side when you look at the opening chapters of Astaroth with Freydis's work in progress. So if you look at both versions of chapter 1, they start off exactly the same way. Briar was bought on a Wednesday. Heat poured through vents in the ceiling, tempering the indoor climate despite the midwinter freeze outside. Unfortunately, the artificial air did nothing to dry his sweat-slicked palms. This moment was a reckoning. And then I could go on, but literally the first chapter is exactly the same. Like what I read out loud just now could be replicated for both versions of this manuscript. The same thing could be said for chapter 2 of both versions. They both start off exactly the same way, the same character names, with the same specific wording. Like it's not even paraphrasing at this point, it is word for word the exact same thing. These patterns continue forward for chapters 3, chapters 4, and who knows how many other chapters there are out there, but like you pretty much get the point. And then in the slim chance that this could possibly be plagiarism, Elle Porter went further ahead by looking at the metadata associated with both Jupiter's and Freydis document files. So for those of you who don't know, basically any file that you have on your computer has metadata, including your Microsoft Word file. You can look at this by just right-clicking on the file and looking at at the document properties, and then you'll see things like when the document was last saved, who the previous owner was. And this is where Elle found out that in both versions of these manuscripts, the author's name said Taylor Brooke. So they decided to confront Freydis privately about the similarities that they found. They shared their conversations in their Twitter thread here, where they basically pasted screenshots of the word-for-word manuscripts shared between both versions. Freydis wrote, "That's ... eerie. Who did you get this from? I deleted my short off Tumblr years ago. It was a fanfic, but that's lifted. What the fuck?" Elle Porter, who also goes by the name M, says, "I can't say who forwarded it to me, but the author who originally sent it was Jupiter Wyse." To which Freydis Moon replies, "Who is that? Wait, is that the fucking... Okay, wait, is that the Taylor Barton pen name person? Is that why people thought I was them? Like, I don't mean to have an ego about this, but did that person legit scrub my fanfic? I'm so confused and I don't know what to do. Should I, like, make a statement or something? I feel like I've already done that. I mean, at this point, I'll just trunk both those stories, I guess, and keep working on my other stuff. They were old anyway, but it feels extra weird to just have this come back over and over again. It just feels violating at this point. I'm, like, kind of pissed, honestly. I don't know this person, and now I want to find them and sue them. I don't think I could. But now I know why they were sued before, for plagiarism. Something that is odd about their reaction is that they just immediately decided that they would abandon their stories. They didn't ask to receive Jupiter's manuscript so that they could personally verify it themselves, or just even out of curiosity, because theoretically, if you found out that another person had plagiarized your work, wouldn't you want to see everything that they tried to do? Instead, they were just like, "Oh man, this sucks. Anyway, I guess I'll just move on." The only thing that they asked about was who sent Elle Porter the manuscript in the first place. In order to prove their innocence, they also sent a screenshot to M that shows their recent contract with Bethany, who is their agent, to prove that Bethany had to know their legal name in order to advocate and sign for them. However, this claim is a little bit muddy because agents and publishers don't necessarily require you to show your legal identification. So with everything that's been uncovered, especially the metadata, Elle Porter was convinced that Freydis was truly Taylor Barton and Jupiter Wyse, especially since they also knew that Freydis has a habit of creating alternate accounts under alternate names. Case in point, one of their alter egos was someone named Saint Harlowe. This is proven from a private conversation where they shared a tweet by Saint Harlowe, and Freydis Moon replied, "Keep my secret, tell no one, but that is me." The reason why Freydis being behind the account for Saint Harlowe is particularly damning or ironic is because Saint Harlowe was this Twitter account that basically called out an agent for bullying people within the community. This agent's name was Cardigan, and Cardigan was someone that talked a lot of shit about other authors. One of the most egregious examples of the ways that Cardigan was talking shit about other authors was this one conversation that they went on about an author that hadn't been published yet, but they were working on a manuscript that was about whales, and Cardigan, along with other people that were in the Discord, were making fun of that author for being passionate about whales and then making fun of their bisexuality. It is extremely common for authors to talk shit about other authors, but what made the situation with Cardigan a bigger conflict was the fact that Cardigan had recently been promoted to be an agent. So people were concerned that Cardigan would abuse their powers as an agent. So that's basically the summary of what went down with Cardigan. And one of the people that had called out Cardigan was Saint Harlowe. I think calling out bad behavior is perfectly fine, but the fact that the person that led this whole campaign turned out to be Freydis Moon with their history just adds like a whole layer to it, especially when the Saint Harlowe persona was super aggressive to a bunch of other people in the book community. But it serves more as a contrast to Freydis Moon, who had a persona that encouraged you to be supportive and kind to other people. So it seems like the Saint Harlowe persona was a way for them to get away with being aggressive and mean to other people. Another thing that Freydis did while juggling the Saint Harlowe persona was they would be friends with a person, but with the other persona be enemies to them. And I think that was like a way to keep tabs on this person. So one of the examples was posted by MJ Huntsgood, who was another writer in the community, and tried to share how they were manipulated. And that was when Harlowe attacked them and was like, "No, you were complacent." And it just added more fuel to the fire. Anyway, so MJ Huntsgood shares some screenshots in these Discord chats. Freydis Moon tells MJ, "I saw you and Saint kinda got into it. Hopefully that was resolved. And I've also seen a bunch of people deactivate. Hopefully everyone is okay. I did find find your interaction with Saint to be a bit odd, but I think everyone is just really sensitive right now. I was glad to see you apologize. You had no problem going after Saint. I think this is a moment to think of the why and how. There's a conversation where MJ says, hey, Saint blocked me. Is everything okay, or are they just protecting their peace? Freydis replied, I have no idea. I know they went private after people started tone policing their tweets. Saint very validly pointed out you'd mentioned protecting your reputation while others spoke up and took the fall. I feel like things like that are making this whole thing very ... hard to navigate for people who were brutally and publicly ridiculed by Cardi's clique. So basically, when the whole situation with Cardigan happened, Harlowe would be super aggressive against MJ and basically blame them for a bunch of stuff, and then MJ would go towards Freydis Moon and be very vulnerable to this person, not knowing that Freydis was actually Harlowe. This is some devious shit right here. This person truly took a look at Kate Corain's situation with making up that fake alter persona named Lily, and they were like, I can do you one better. And then to add to the messiness, when Freydis Moon has now been exposed, Cardigan resurrects themselves from the dead. They reactivate their Twitter and they say, no one will see this since I'm a new account with no followers, thanks partially to Freydis, but I never made a statement about what happened to me. Freydis openly admitted to stalking me from afar. They spread heinous shit about me and allowed others to do so as well. Cardigan then goes on to tweet a very long thread about how they were canceled and pushed away from Twitter because of Freydis and their manipulation, their games, and how Cardigan was forced to apologize for their screenshots even though the screenshots were altered. So basically they're blaming the reason why they were ran off of Twitter and canceled and dogpiled on Freydis / Saint Harlowe, to which other people replied to Cardigan's threat and were like, no, you're still kind of a shitty person. Like, you legit were a bully to other people. Plus, Cardigan claimed that the screenshots were altered. However, they don't share their own screenshots, which is something that they could have done to easily disprove it. So their attempt with trying to go back to Twitter and write off the coattails of Freydis being canceled and run off of Twitter was not successful, because everyone was like, you know that we can find more than one person shitty, right? So they went ahead and deactivated again, and same thing for Freydis Moon, who also is no longer on Twitter. And I just feel like all these people who keep on creating new accounts because they can't resist the lure of Twitter need to be put on an island somewhere and just have all their alter egos fight each other. We need Kate Corain and all their other fake accounts, we need Cardigan and all their other fake names that they've had, and we need Freydis Moon to just all duke it out together and leave the rest of book Twitter alone. You would think by now I'm done sharing Twitter threads, right? I am actually not, because there is a separate Twitter thread about Freydis Moon. This one was made by a writer named Anna Szabo, who provides further proof of all the different aliases that Taylor has going on. So they said, once in a while I googled Tay Stallion, which was one of Taylor Brooke / Taylor B. Barton / Brooklyn Ray's Twitter handle. I got a hit recently. So they share a screenshot from Social Hiker where you can see, despite having the same username as Taylor, this person is named Hunter Lewellyn. And the picture of this Hunter person matches the same picture as Taylor Brooke in this old article back when they published The Ninth Life. Anna then goes on to say that if you search for Hunter Lewellyn author, you get hits for authors published by Lewellyn Books. Lewellyn Books seems to be a publisher name as well, this time with 2 L's at the beginning. Anna also discovered that if you look up 2 books by Freydis Moon that are older and out of print on Walmart, you can see in the information about the older edition, the publisher is named Hunter Lewellyn. Anna then searched up Hunter Lewellyn in Oregon because that was the state where Taylor had lived at some point, and they found an address under the company name Cordelia Lynne. The address for this company name leads to a strip mall instead of an actual address, and the company contact is Hunter Lewellyn. So that means that there's a business name out there called Cordelia Lynne, which is managed by Hunter Lewellyn, who happens to be headquartered in the same state where Taylor once lived. If you search up the name Cordelia Lynne, you can also see that there is the Lynne Agency, which is a boutique literary agency based on the West Coast. And this is an agency that lasted for a few months before Lynne vanished completely. A possible reason for this could be due to this Twitter thread where someone had asked why Cordelia Lynne disappeared, and another person replied that they got an email from Writers Beware and seemingly immediately deleted after. They found out that her name was a registered business name as opposed to a real name, but was listed under another name that seemingly doesn't exist. Lynne claimed it was their husband, but both Cordelia Lynne and said register's name either are made up or they went hard purging all personal info from the internet. Writers Beware is basically an organization that acts as a resource to make sure that there aren't bad practices within the publishing industry. So it seems that this organization had reached out to this mysterious agency by Cordelia Lynne, and that spooked off whoever was behind the agency. Something to also note is that in July 2023, Freydis announced their Twitter was being taken over by a publicist. That publicist was named Cordy, which could be short for Cordelia. Announcement: I'm excited and nervous to officially hand over the reins to my Twitter and TikTok, but it's It's time. This account will be managed by my publicist very soon. I'll still be around, but all posts and engagement will be relayed by my team. P.S. Be nice to Cordy. She's an A+ industry pro who will be acting on my behalf. This publicist disappeared at the same time that Cordelia Lynne also disappeared, and so when someone asked Freydis, was this just completely out of the blue, Freydis replied, entirely. I guess she's had a family emergency and I'm sending her good vibes. I can't help but be a little worried for her other clients too though. So Anna deduces that Cordelia Lynne, the business name / agency, and Cordy, the publicist for Freydis, were likely the same person. And again, they were a business filed by Hunter Lewellyn that lives in the same town as Taylor, and that Hunter Lewellyn was listed as a publisher for 2 of Freydis Moon's books. Anna also notes that there is an author out there named Bailey Greene who was a new author with a book about a demon who buys an angel at an auction, which is a similar story that one of the aliases for Freydis had talked about before. And this book was previously published by Brooklyn Ray, and so the book title by Bailey Greene is called Of Fire and Feathers, but then when you look at the metadata for that book title on Amazon, you can see both the names Bailey and Brooklyn showing up. So basically this person just has multiple aliases and multiple stories, and they kind of just juggle between all these different things. And I guess on the side at some point they were also an agent. The sad thing is it looks like that this fake agent had tricked at least one writer out there before, because POV, you wake up and find out that the fake agent you signed with last July, who then dropped you and left the industry and disappeared from the internet, ended up having multiple pseudonyms and also was pretending to be a Latine author when she was definitely not that. So basically there's just a giant web of all these fake personas, and every time this person gets caught, they just start over with a new persona, and it's probably gonna happen even after this video gets posted, and maybe they'll do it for the rest of their lives because this seems to be like a full-time job for them. One thing you might wonder is why did they choose to be a Latinx author specifically? And aside from the obvious reasons of every time a white person disguises themselves as a person of color so that they can get what they perceive to be a privilege or an advantage for the diversity points, another reason could possibly be due to their weird beef that they have with Aiden Thomas, who is a Latino American author, because in one of the private Discord conversations that Freydis had, someone had mentioned that they were reading Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. They weren't really vibing with it. They thought the Spanish was fine and that it was kind of annoying when it feels like the Spanish is repeated in English in the next sentence. To which Freydis replies, oh yeah, the Spanish is fine. It's the author pretending to be poor that rubs me the wrong way, and a lot of other stuff. He's a millionaire, doesn't need the support but sure pretends to. Anyway, I'm happy for him TBH, and I'm glad people like his book, but every time Exodus gets comped to it, I want to eat through my floor and become a mole person. In another screenshot, Freydis also goes on to say, I can't help but wonder if this Latine pitch party is exclusively young adult because there's one really very monstrously rich and successful Latine author who is a YA prince. Rolling eyes emoji. There definitely seems to be some kind of resentment that this person has against Aiden Thomas. It seems even stranger that this person is brown facing to have a similar audience as Aiden Thomas does. Aiden also tweeted, fun fact, Stacey Anthony had their editor reach out to me for a blurb for their cosplay book that did indeed get published. I looked at it and immediately clocked them as Taylor and sent an email back with a hard no. What gags me about this is you clearly don't like this person, so why are you trying to get a blurb from this person? Like, if you're gonna be a hater, own up to it. Anyway, now that all of this has been known in the writing community, there are a couple of consequences that have resulted, including the editor of the Devout Anthology, which Freydis used to be a part of, had to make an official statement that they will be working with their cover artists and formatters to remove Freydis Moon's contributions from the anthology. The agency that they signed with also made an announcement that they have dropped them. Alright, Editing Cindy here, popping in to add some more stuff that came out after I filmed this video. There have been some more announcements from organizations that were affiliated with Freydis Moon, like the Queer Indie Awards, who released a statement saying that they were going to rescind any of the awards granted to Freydis Moon in the past and disqualify any current or future pen names of that person in subsequent award years. Fake Crate, which is a promotional box company that was going to collaborate with Freydis Moon, also released a statement saying that they are officially cutting ties with this author. Anyone who ordered the box can get a refund, and even if they don't request a refund, Freydis is still not going to collect any of the profits from past sales. It's also been revealed that one of their aliases, Stacey Anthony, actually was agented, but that agent posted a tweet saying they actually parted ways a couple weeks ago and they are no longer represented by that agency. So this is the 4th time that they have been dropped with a 4th alias. It's kind of incredible that they managed to get 4 agents. You would think that with the skill that they had to get represented so many times that they would just focus on writing, but I guess the thrill of committing fraud was so much more enticing. Part of that fraud included altering contracts. So when they were sharing screenshots of their contracts to other people to prove prove that their identity was Daniella. It turns out that it was actually photoshopped. So they never actually revealed their legal names to anyone except for what I'm assuming to be the agents that they signed with. I know a lot of the comments are going to be asking, how did this even happen? So I'm also going to link to a Twitter thread by Tess Sharp who explains that the idea that you have to give your ID for any job is not actually true. An agent/author relationship is not a job in the sense that you are thinking. It's a partnership and contractual agreement. We are taxed as freelancers, so we normally give social security numbers or EINs. You also technically don't need to show your face either. The publishing industry didn't really use Zoom until the pandemic. Tess Sharp had worked with her editor for 13 years, and they never saw each other on video until the 13th year. There is a great deal of professional trust that happens between an agent and author when they sign, but the verification process of tax ID, EIN, social security number, address, etc. should be enough for most normal situations, not the weird fraud ones. No one owes you transparency when it comes to a pen name. Sometimes someone cannot give you transparency about pen names. As a work-from-home writer, I have multiple books under pen names I do not own. I have signed NDAs that restrict me from sharing those names. Another reason you might not be able to claim your pen name is because contractually you can't because of no complete clauses. Again, I'll link to the full thread if you're interested in reading more about how pen names work, but they are absolutely an important part about the publishing industry, and they are there for a reason to protect marginalized people. So it's a shame that a bad actor took advantage of that. As for Freydis' response after they got exposed, they haven't been on Twitter. They actually deactivated their account around the same time that their friend M had originally asked them about the similar manuscripts to Jupiter. So it seems like they were already kind of trying to gear up to take a step away from Twitter for the sake of inner peace, and that's definitely what they seem to be talking about over on their Instagram, which is now private. However, before they privated their Instagram, some people were able to grab screenshots of what they said about the situation. When someone asked if Freydis was going to make a statement about the accusations, they said, "I will not be making a statement. I've seen the allegations, I'm not on Twitter for a reason, and I'll be moving on with my life. Those who believe the allegations can continue their support. Those who don't are always welcome here." Praying emoji in the brown skin tone. The next day after that whole Twitter thread that exposed them happened, they carried on posting privately to their Instagram with a picture of their cat, and the caption says, "Missing my babies. About to hop on an airplane and head home after spending the last few days surrounded by family. Honestly, I can't wait to snuggle my cats, drink some tea, find a good yoga studio, and decompress. I've been thinking about a lot lately, how endurance is a hard-won quality, how ambition is subjective, how things that seem so monumental are actually quite small in the grand scheme. Myself, my work, the little people in my phone screen, the tiny career I cultivated in the tinier pool I'm floating in. Prioritizing peace is essential in an industry like this. So is implementing strict boundaries. If there's one thing that will not rattle me, it is the faith that I have in myself. I might be resting now, but I'll be back to work soon. Gideon spinoff and Dark Academia will likely be here in 2025. Sparkle emoji, hand heart emoji with the brown skin tone." What really gags me is that they just showed their hand in the background right there while using a brown skin tone emoji. Like, is that emoji supposed to represent your hands? Because it's actually a closer match to your cat. So I'm guessing with their new resolution of live, love, laugh, and drawing boundaries and focusing on their mental health and well-being, that maybe after being caught twice, they're trying to hope that maybe people will give them the benefit of the doubt this time. My question is, who the hell has the time for this shit? This is like over 10 accounts, and that's only the accounts that we know of. So for all we know, there's probably tons of others out there. Not only is this person making multiple accounts to talk to the same people, but having different dynamics with that person depending on whether they're an enemy or a friend, but they're also writing multiple books at the same time. I guess you gotta commend the ability to multitask, because I'm over here struggling to write my novel while balancing 2 jobs. Meanwhile, they're juggling multiple identities, so maybe I really need to get my shit together when it comes to time management. Obviously, this person's behavior is egregious on so many levels, because not only does it whittle down the trust that a writer could have in a community for other people who maybe aren't able to show their real name or their real face on the internet, it also puts people who are using pen names under a bad light when they shouldn't be scrutinized. There are tons of reasons why writers could use pen names, but I think most specifically when it comes to the queer community, which Freydis was a part of, so many queer and trans authors have to use a pen name if they have to be in the closet for their own safety. When you have a bad actor that's employing the same techniques that people usually do to preserve their safety, it really muddles the whole thing. And what's really strange to me is that based on the excerpts that I've read through these screenshots, their writing seemed good. They had a lot of creative ideas. Their writing matched the quality that agents would expect, hence the fact that they got signed on by 3 different agents. So they clearly had the skills to make it in publishing, and they really could have had a fruitful career if they just weren't a shitty person. And I feel like it's not hard to be a shitty person. Literally all you have to do is just not open your mouth. Just shut up and write your damn story. race and like resist the urge to be racist or bully people. Like, I don't know why it's so hard that people cannot restrain themselves to do so. I think it's one thing for someone to be exposed to be shitty. That's just life. There's gonna be tons of mean people everywhere. But it's another thing when that person that's being exposed also turns out to be a white person pretending to be a different race. This is more than just one occasion now. And in fact, I'm sure there are multiple occasions of this historically and even today. And these are just the cases that we happen to know about and we haven't caught on yet. The reason why it is such a deeper insult for an asshole to pretend to be a person of color is because you know that they had to do that because they believed that if they were a person of color, they would receive some kind of advantage in whatever system they're trying to play. When you are a person of color, both in real life and on the internet, you're gonna deal with so much bullshit. But in the eyes of a white person like Freydis Moon, they didn't see those legitimate struggles that people of color face. Instead, they saw it as a way for them to climb a social ladder. I think also when you exist as a person of color on the internet, there's this desire for people to want to form communities or support one another when you see that they are in a marginalized group similar to yours. That kind of good faith has been taken advantage of by bad actors like Freydis Moon. And not only does this benefit them, it also puts actual people of color in a shittier position. It's a recurring problem for many authors of color, but especially Latinx or Latine authors, to constantly be set at a disadvantage compared to their white peers who are having a much easier time getting publishing deals. Not only do they have to write a certain narrative in order to be published, but they also have to defend their cultural identity. They have to constantly defend having too much Spanish in their books or too little Spanish in their books. They have to fight to show the portrayals of their characters and do that delicate balance between what is a correct portrayal of a Latinx or a Latine character versus an incorrect portrayal. And those are just the complicated dynamics that you have to face as a writer of color. Like, you're never gonna be just evaluated for the story that you write. You're gonna be evaluated for the story that you write with your race attached to it. So the whole thing with Freydis Moon is so insulting because it's already so hard for people to break into both traditional publishing and indie publishing. Not to mention, because Freydis Moon is an indie author and they were more ingrained in the indie writer space, they also screwed over a lot of their indie writer peers. There are indie authors out there who now have to go back to their manuscript, scrub out the blurb that Freydis Moon gave to them, remove that from their interior pages, remove that from the cover, remove that from any marketing pages they have online. For those indie authors that have already gone far enough along the production process, that's gonna be extra money for them to have to go back and fix all of that. Indie authors are already taking money out of their own pocket just to publish their book. So this is just a really shitty situation for everyone all around. I think we really need to acknowledge that white queer people are really good at co-opting social justice language on the internet and using that to their advantage. When I talked about the Kate Corain situation in my video, a lot of people were giving me shit for making this about white women or about white queer people. They were saying, why are you making this about white people? Kate Corain is just one person. Don't have her represent all of them. Lo and behold, this is not the first or the second time that a white queer person in the writing community within the frame of like half a year has been trying to grift everyone and pretend to be different personas and try to use their different levels of oppression, real or imaginary, in order to gain an upper hand. Because the thing about a lot of white queer people is that they are familiar with the language of being an ally because they see the type of posts that you make when you defend yourself as a person of color, and they know how to use that for their own advantage. They know how to take your place as a marginalized person by using their own experiences and their own observations as an ally in order to take your position that they secretly but very desperately want. And a super important skill that they know is how to play the victim, because I guess on the internet that is how you get ahead, by painting others as a bad guy and you're just the victim and therefore you deserve all the accolades for that. The similarities that these people have is that they were so eager to take someone down. They were counting on whatever identity that they fabricated and the good faith of other people that they befriended to help them dogpile on whoever they didn't like as a way to take the other person down on the internet, because I guess this is like their full-time job. And I feel like this should be a lesson to people who constantly get surprised every time someone gets revealed to be a bad actor, that maybe we should be a little bit more careful around other people who seem to constantly get involved in drama. And the thing is, this is not going to be the last last time we see this person. In fact, we're probably going to see many people who are just like Kate Corain or Cardigan or Freydis Moon. The difference is that they're just going to have different aliases and different names. This is inevitable. They are not going to stop because they literally have nothing else going on in their lives. So they're just going to keep on doing this over and over again. And I feel like at this point, after the first, second, third time that's happening, I think a lot of people on the internet, but especially the writing community and book Twitter, need to just be a little bit more wary about this kind of stuff and just be careful with not easily believing whatever a random person on the internet says. But I think we have to acknowledge the reason why Freydis Moon created so many different accounts under different names, and that's because despite it being very understandable why people may have pen names or internet pseudonyms, it's also, on the flip side, incredibly easy to try to maintain control or change the narrative about something when you hide behind an anonymous account. There's a lot of power imbalance that happens between a person on the internet who shows their face, shows their actual name, versus someone who exists on the internet but doesn't show their actual name or their face. It makes it very easy for that person to say whatever they want about another person, like in the case of Freydis Moon, who was randomly bringing up Aiden Thomas and saying that this person was a millionaire and Aiden was just pretending to be poor. It's incredibly easy to weaponize your bad faith takes about a person or attack someone's character without actually risking anything about yourself, as long as you hide behind a fake name and a drawing of you. Because of course you can just claim that you're a person of color and that you know what you're talking about. Of course you can just pretend that your criticism of an author or another person on the internet comes from good faith and that you have no actual personal beef with them. That's how it is for a lot of people who don't have to show their faces on the internet or reveal their actual race. I'm not saying that people need to reveal all their personal information, because that should not be expected of anybody, especially when it comes to their personal safety. But I think that we need to practice online literacy when you see someone who is constantly pretending to be the expert of something or trying to take another person down. And of course, I'm really just saying all of this when in the future it becomes my turn and another person called Moon Chan tries to spread slander about me, but they say it's okay because they're Asian or something. Who the fuck knows? I haven't run into this person, but they keep on regenerating again like a terrible villain in a video game, so I'm sure I'll run into them again, as will you, and who knows, you might even become friends with this person. If there's really any lesson to take away from this though, it's a lesson that all writers of color should remember. The idea of imposter syndrome and constantly questioning how valid you are in your cultural identity should be irrelevant. You don't gotta worry if you're Latin enough, Asian enough, Black enough. Who cares? If you are not going to stand up to claim your cultural identity, I guarantee you another white writer out there will do that for you. So let this be a lesson for writers of color everywhere to uphold yourself with the same confidence as a white writer trying to catfish as you. Now, before I end this video, I want to take this time to shout out a couple of trans, Latina, and Latinx authors out there. One of them is going to be, of course, Aiden Thomas, who really has probably dealt with so much crap behind the scenes. They're probably one of the most well-known trans Latino American authors out there because of their book series, The Sunbury Trials. This is a duology that follows 3 characters who are exploring this monster-ravaged world. It's a young adult story about these characters have to face down these gods in order to save their friends. So if you're looking for coming-of-age stories featuring trans characters, they are definitely the author to check out. The most recent trans Latinx author who I've had the pleasure of checking out was Gabe Cole, because they released their debut this year. It's called Most Ardently, and it's Pride and Prejudice retelling, except instead of Elizabeth as a main character, the protagonist is actually a trans boy. I've started this book already and I think it is just so cute. I think that it is such like a refreshing take on Pride and Prejudice, and I feel like it adds a whole new layer to the story, especially when so much of Jane Austen's stories was about subverting patriarchy and societal expectations. I think making the main character a trans boy is so perfect to really reflect the ways that even today we still continue to try to subvert societal norms. Another trans author to check out is Alex Crespo. They wrote a really cute rom-com called Queercenera. Basically, if you are really into telenovela drama, then this is the book for you, because the main character here finds himself having to fake date his crush in order to attend his queercenera, which is like a queer twist to a quinceañera. And then lastly, there's Camila Sosa, who is a transgender Argentine writer. She has a collection of short stories called I'm a Fool to Want You, and this kind of teeters between fantasy and reality. There's a lot of interesting stories. One of them takes place in the 1990s, there's a woman who has to make a living as a rental girlfriend for gay men. There's another story about a group of rugby players who have to haggle over the price of a night of sex, and in return they get what they deserve. So that just sounds like a lot of juicy revenge that I definitely want to check out. So I have this book added on my TBR. If there are any other trans Latine or Latinx authors out there, feel free to drop them in the comments. I feel like anytime situations like these happen, it becomes even more important to uplift a community where we actually know that these authors are the real deal and support the works that they put out, because Lord knows they already go through with so much bullshit. I look forward to checking out your recommendations or hearing back if you do decide to check out these books. Until then, I will see you next time. Bye.
My mama told me don't talk to people you haven't met. I guess my mama was right, but it's not 'cause everybody you meet is dangerous.